My friends, what you see around you right now is not the truth about your life. I want you to hear that clearly because everything else I'm going to say tonight depends on your willingness to accept it. What you see around you right now, your finances, your relationships, your circumstances, the specific texture of the life you have been living is not a report on what is. It is an echo, a delayed, lagging, already outdated reflection of thoughts you thought, beliefs you held, and assumptions you maintained in a past that is already gone. It is a photograph. And the profound error, the error that keeps more people trapped than any other single mistake, is to look at this photograph and call it truth. The photograph is not the truth. The photograph is the past, wearing the costume of the present. The truth is what you hold in the quiet of your imagination, not what you see with your physical eyes, not what your bank statement reports, not what the people around you confirm. The truth is the scene you dare to inhabit in the interior of your own mind, the story you choose to tell yourself in the unguarded moments, in the space between waking and sleeping, in the private running commentary that never stops and never rests and never fails to create. The world will show you the reflection of your inner state, but only after a delay, always after a delay. The visible world is the child of the invisible world, and children are always born after the fact. They are the proof of what was, not the announcement of what is. This means something radical. If you want tomorrow to look different, you must stop letting today dictate how you feel. You must stop taking today's reflection as instruction. You must stop looking at the photograph and asking it to tell you what the future holds. Today's reality is not your prophet. It is your historian. And you have already moved past the chapter it is still reporting on. Ignore your reality. I know how that sounds. I know the reasonable voices will rise immediately, ignore it. But it's real. But it's right here. But these are facts. And I am not asking you to pretend the facts don't exist. I am asking you to stop giving them the authority to determine your inner state. I am asking you to understand what facts actually are. They are the crystallized residue of past assumptions, hardened into physical form through the ordinary operation of the law of consciousness. They are not immovable. They are not permanent. They are not telling you who you are. They are telling you who you were. And there is a world of difference. So when your senses wave their hands and demand your attention, when the account shows a number you don't like, when the relationship hasn't appeared, when the body isn't yet what you envision, smile at these things. Not the smile of someone in denial, but the smile of someone who understands. These are the fading remnants of a life you have already outgrown. They are the shadows still lingering after the light has shifted. They are the last words of an old chapter you have already stopped writing. Do not fight them. Do not fear them. Simply refuse to give them creative authority over your inner state. Just keep assuming. This is the whole practice. Not complicated, not requiring special gifts or unusual discipline. Simply the consistent, persistent daily choice to assume that what you desire is already fulfilled. Wake up in the morning and feel the satisfaction of it, not the hopeful anticipation, the satisfaction. The specific quality of ease that belongs to someone for whom the thing is simply, unremarkably already true. Go about your day as the one who has already received. Make choices from that identity. Speak from that identity. Rest at night in the comfort of that identity. Let your assumption be more real to you than any circumstance. At first, and I want you to hear this clearly so you are not caught off guard when it happens, at first the senses will argue. They will present their evidence. They will point at the visible, physical, touchable world and say, this is reality. This is what's real. How can you ignore this? And your answer in the quiet of your own mind is simply, this is the past. This is not my current truth. I have already moved. Then return to the vision. Keep seeing yourself where you wish to be, not where you are. Keep feeling the joy of it as if it were already yours. Because in the only dimension where things are first made real, it already is. If you persist in this way faithfully, consistently, Without the constant interruption of doubt, the old reality will crumble. Not dramatically, not in a single sweeping moment. The way old paint chips gradually from a wall as the new surfaces beneath it. The new reality, your chosen reality, will rise to take its place. Gradually, then suddenly, then completely. Your outer world is always one step behind your inner world. By the time you can see, touch, or measure something in the physical world, it has already been set in motion by an earlier state of mind. The visible is always the effect. The invisible is always the cause. The tree visible above the ground was invisible as a seed, but the seed was no less real, no less active, no less certain in its becoming. This means that what displeases you right now is not your enemy. It is outdated. Like a letter that was mailed 3 weeks ago, it carries news from a time that has already passed. The danger comes when you forget this, when you emotionally engage with the old reflection as though it were a current event, when you give your frustration and fear and attention to the photograph and water it with your energy. Because here is the mechanism that keeps people trapped. The moment you give your emotional energy to what you dislike, you plant new seeds of the very thing you are trying to leave behind. Your attention is not neutral, it is creative. Whatever you focus on with feeling, you grow, whether you want it or not. The wise creator does not take present circumstances as instruction for how to feel. They know that feelings are the blueprint of tomorrow, so they refuse to let today's picture dictate tomorrow's reality. They withdraw their focus from the unwanted, gently but completely, and place it on the unseen vision they have chosen. They treat the present like a letter already mailed. The message it carries is done. It cannot be unwritten. But the next letter, the one being composed right now, in the inner world of assumption, can say anything they choose. Everything begins in the unseen. Before any event unfolds, before any change becomes visible, before any dream takes physical form, it exists first in the quiet realm of thought and belief. The invisible comes first, always, without exception, in every life, in every era, in every transformation that has ever occurred. Your mind is the soil. Every assumption you hold is a seed, and seeds planted in receptive soil, watered with feeling, tended with persistence, grow, not because you are forcing them, not because you are supervising the process, because that is the nature of seeds. They become what they carry, and your assumptions carry the precise form of the reality they will become. The mistake most people make is to judge their lives entirely by what they can currently see. They forget that what is visible is already the end of a process, not the beginning. The harvest visible above ground began as a seed beneath the surface, in the dark, in the invisible weeks or months before it could be seen. Your desires work the same way. They are born the moment you assume them as already yours. They begin their journey into form the instant you feel their reality in your inner world. This is why you must be intentional about what you plant. Every thought charged with genuine emotion is a seed dropped into the fertile soil of your subconscious. The subconscious does not evaluate. It does not screen your thoughts for worthiness or probability. It receives them and begins building from them, the way soil receives a seed and begins feeding it, without asking whether the seed deserves to grow. If you spend your days replaying fears, the subconscious plants fear. If you dwell in anticipation of disappointment, it plants disappointment. These weeds do not ask permission. They grow in whatever attention you give them. But you have the choice always, in every moment, to plant something different. You can choose to assume your desire is already reality. You can choose to hold that assumption as though it was sacred, tending to it daily with feeling and faith. When doubt appears, you refuse to water it. When appearances contradict your vision, you recognize them as old seeds still completing their cycle, and you let them pass without giving them your emotional energy. You do not dig up the seed to check its progress. You do not demand it reveal itself before it is ready. You water it with belief. You keep the soil warm with the feeling of the wish fulfilled. You protect it from the weeds of fear, and the harvest comes. Not when you demand it, in its own perfect time, which is always sooner than you expect when you have stopped interfering with the process. The moment you decide what you want, your task is not to wait for proof. It is to live from the end now, today, in this body, in this day, as if the desire were already fulfilled. The greatest mistake you can make at this point is to stand still, scanning the horizon for signs of progress, measuring the distance between where you are and where you want to be. This posture of waiting only creates more waiting. The law responds to your state, and the state of someone waiting is the state of someone who does not yet have. So the law delivers more not yet having. Instead, step into the role now. Mentally, emotionally, in the privacy of your own consciousness, become the person who already has the thing you desire. You cannot hold the identity of someone poor and expect to live in wealth. You cannot carry the feeling of someday and expect the gift to arrive today. What you hold in your mind and heart becomes your reality, not what you wish for at a distance, but what you claim in the present. When you assume it is done, you stop approaching your desire as a request and start approaching it as a fact. Ask yourself honestly, if I already had this, how would I think? How would I move through a room? How would I speak to people? How would I treat myself? And then live according to those answers, even while your senses still report the old reality. The outer world carries the residue of the old state, yes, but the outer world is the shadow. The substance is the inner state you are choosing to hold. The moment you accept the role inwardly, the scene begins to change outwardly. Not always immediately, not always visibly, but it begins. Always, without exception, it begins. There will be voices, some from outside you, some from within, that will try to tell you what is possible and what is not. They will measure your potential by your current circumstances. They will point at your past failures as evidence for your future limitations. They will speak in the measured, reasonable tone of people who believe they are simply being practical. And what they are actually doing without malice, without awareness, is binding you to the known and the visible, keeping you from stepping into the unseen where your desire already lives. Do not silence these voices by arguing with them. You cannot win that argument because they have evidence on their side. The visible world, the photographs, the history, all of it supports their case. And you are not making a case for the visible. You are living from the invisible. You silence these voices by withdrawing your mental and emotional energy from their words. Not with contempt, not with defensiveness, with the quiet, complete turning away of someone who has simply moved their attention elsewhere. Your senses too will try to persuade you. They will present facts, numbers, images that seem immovable. They will whisper, "Look, nothing has changed. This is still your reality." And you will remember what your senses actually are, reporters of the past. They can only confirm what has already been created by previous states of mind. They have no access to what is becoming. They can only tell you where you were. This is why inner discipline is essential. You must become the guardian of your own mind. When doubt speaks, you turn your attention back to the vision. When fear presents its case, you refuse to sit in its courtroom. When the world insists you are foolish for believing in what it cannot yet see you, silently bless it and return to your inner knowing. The power to transform your life is not found in convincing the world to support your dream. It is found in convincing yourself so completely that the world has no choice but to rearrange itself accordingly. To live in the end is to make your fulfilled desire your mental home. Not a place you visit occasionally when you are in the right mood. Not a daydream you drift into and then return from. A dwelling place. The place you live from the inner address that shapes your decisions, your words, your expectations, your posture, your quality of thought. Most people spend their lives always moving toward their desires, imagining them as distant points on a horizon, using the language of someday, eventually, when it finally happens. And this language, this posture, this consistent inner orientation of someone who is not yet there, it keeps them perpetually not yet there. Because the law reads the state, not the intention. And the state of someone moving toward a destination is the state of someone who has not yet arrived. When you live from the end, you remove the distance. You claim the result now in thought and feeling, and you let that state define everything that flows from you. You are not wishing for it from a distance. You are inhabiting it from the inside. Thinking toward the desire says, I am not there yet, but one day I will be. Thinking from the desire says, I am this now. I have this now. It is mine now. From that second position, your actions naturally align with the reality you have claimed. Your expectations naturally align. The quality of your attention naturally shifts. And the world, reading this new inner signal, begins its faithful process of delivering the physical correspondence. When the outer world still shows you the old conditions, when the bank account hasn't caught up, when the relationship hasn't appeared, when the body still looks like it did yesterday, you do not panic. You recognize the lag. You understand that the outer is always one step behind the inner, and that one step requires patience, not desperate waiting, patient certainty, the specific calm of someone who has planted the seed and simply trusts the soil. Persistence is the quality that carries all of this from practice to mastery. The outer world may resist for a time. Old conditions may linger with what seems like stubbornness. The shadow may remain visible for a while after the light has shifted. And it is in this gap, this specific testing, disorienting period between assumption and manifestation that most people give up. Not because the law failed, not because their desire was too large or their practice was imperfect, but because they wavered. They allowed the lingering shadow to convince them the light had not changed. This is the gap where persistence lives. The quiet, unwavering decision to remain in the chosen state, regardless of what the physical world is still showing. You do not argue with the old conditions. You do not try to fix them from the outside. You simply refuse to give them creative authority over your inner state. You return to the vision, again and again, without frustration, without the accumulated weight of disappointment. You simply return, the way you return to breathing after you have held your breath, naturally, because this is what you do, because this is who you are. Time becomes, in this framework, genuinely irrelevant, not because it doesn't exist, but because the outcome is already established in the dimension that precedes physical form. The variable is not whether it will happen. The variable is only how long you will hold your assumption before the physical world catches up, and that is entirely in your hands. When you persist in this way, faithfully, consistently, without demanding proof before your appointed time, something begins to happen. The assumption deepens. The feeling becomes more natural. The inner home of your fulfilled desire starts to feel less like a practice and more like simply who you are. You stop looking for signs because you no longer need them. You stop measuring progress by what you can see because you have located your certainty somewhere the visible world cannot reach. And then one ordinary day, through a sequence of events that your logical mind could not have predicted or planned, the world bends. The outer catches up to the inner. The physical world delivers what was established long ago in consciousness, and it feels not miraculous but inevitable, not surprising but simply right, as though it could never have been any other way, as though the life standing before you is simply the one that was always yours, finally visible in form. The power to transform your life lies not in reacting to what you see, but in mastering what you assume. Your current reality is the echo of past beliefs, a delayed reflection of states you no longer have to maintain. You can step out of that reflection at any moment, not by changing the outer, which is always the effect, by changing the inner, which is always the cause. Ignore the echo. It is not telling you the truth. It is telling you the past. Assume your desire as already fulfilled. Not later, not when you feel more ready, not when circumstances cooperate. Now, in the only moment where creation actually occurs. Silence the outer voices not by fighting them, but by withdrawing your creative energy from them. Live in the end daily, making your fulfilled desire the home you return to in every moment, not the destination you are hoping to reach someday. And persist faithfully, patiently, with the unshakable loyalty of someone who knows what they know through the lag between the inner shift and the outer reflection. Your role is not to chase, beg, or demand. Your role is to choose, believe, and remain. The inner must be honored before the outer can reflect it. And the moment you genuinely, consistently, completely live from your chosen state, the rest becomes inevitable. Stay loyal to the vision. Ignore what contradicts it. Trust that what you have claimed in consciousness is already yours. The world will catch up. It always does. Thank you. This is Neville Lectures. I'll see you again in the next video.